Chris?
Okay, stand by for live audio, please.
Forgot that part. Ready?
Microphone's on?
Mine is on.
Okay, you're all set, thank you.
Okay, we'll start again. Good evening and welcome to the August 2023 Orange Board of Selectmen's meeting. In the event of an emergency, since we do have an audience tonight, to my right, the audience is left, the stairway that I think everybody entered by that leads to the rear parking lot of the town hall. If for some reason you can't go up that one, you can go straight down the hallway, out the back and up the stairs. That will put you out by the Orange Center side of the Orange Center Firehouse, or you could go up the stairs behind the wall with the clock on it front, and that'll put you out in front of the town hall in the event of emergency. With that said, rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here she comes.
There we go. All right, well, I'll start with introductions on this side as she sits down.
Good evening, Mitch Goldblatt.
Good evening, John Carangelo.
Good evening, Ralph Oakenquist.
Vince Moreno, Town Attorney.
And Denny, Secretary to the Board.
Good evening, Judy Williams.
Good evening, PJ Shanley.
Okay, very good. Public participation. Public participation is for any item that is not an agenda item. We allow 2 minutes per speaker for that agenda items.
Thank you. Tom Paisano, 523 Fairway Road, Orange, Connecticut. Just a couple of quick updates. One, because of the location of the playground, we are doing a traffic safety study now for $20,000, and I thought it would be pertinent at that point that that committee have accessibility to the cornfields that are there. So on that issue, we do have a petition. I am working with town council here, finding the date at which we can submit the petition and have a referendum or a vote as in the general election that's coming up November 7th. So we would probably submit this petition by September 7th. I think Vin was going to look into it for me and give us an actual date. Okay? Other than that, I just want to thank the board for all your time and the work at Fred Wolf Park. And we're going to have a lot of company this spring. I see the playground's ready to go. All right, and one other question, which can't be resolved tonight, but we do need more than 2 minutes participation for public participation, and I think this committee eventually will get to a 3 minute or something like that. I haven't resolved why my wife, Peggy Paisano, wasn't allowed to speak, but we'll do that another time. Thank you.
Well, she hasn't been back to speak either. So, been about 6 meetings. Send her back. Okay, anybody else? Chief Dumas.
Good evening, I'm Vaughn Dumas, 307 Great Oak Road, Orange, and I'm also here as the fire chief for the town of Orange. I'm here to talk a little bit about the cellular site behind the Orange Community Center. And recently, back in December 2022, we had installed some updated equipment to replace some existing equipment that was already there. And albeit it was not done to the likings of the administration with insurance policies and such forth, but they did provide us with that. And I just wanted to clarify, because there's some email exchanges that indicate that we weren't authorized to be there to begin with. And I do have here to submit to you, Mr. Cioli, the authorization from the Town Planning and Zoning Office from August of 2000 that the fire department can place their equipment and co-locate with the police department on that level. And in April of 2022, we have an email to the current administration about fiber optics going there for the fire and the police systems. We have to move our equipment, which is understandable based on the contract that was signed for a third party. You want copies of these?
No, bring them to the office.
Based on the third party contract that was signed. So I want to make sure that we do it the right way. And I need a little bit of guidance. The siting council I've contacted, we're exempt because they're public safety, so we don't have to have a siting siting council authorization. It's my understanding now by our radio vendor that 150 foot is the only place that we can co-locate at the top of the tower, and that's going to cost us $20,000 to move that equipment to that top section. So if you can just advise us on what you would like to see from us so that we do that, we don't have a conflict or in the future regarding that equipment being on that cell tower. That's basically what I'm here for. Thank you for your participation with the carnival. Thank you for the support of the town. As always, in the past 5 years as chief, I've had a nice working relationship with everybody, and I hope we can continue that. Thank you.
A little background on that, they put equipment up there, whether it be December or April, there's conflicting dates, at the 138-foot height. The problem being that we had been in negotiations with Dish Cellular for that height for both towers. And they went to the siting council and all at that height. And in the meantime, some other stuff was done. There had been a couple police antennas there. And so then this other equipment, when Dish showed up to start their construction, this other equipment was there. They had been through the siting council process and all. And while the zoning commission may have given them approval, they're not the ones who give approval. And we weren't aware of that. And so it ended up in a little bit of conflict, but there's been some resolve to it today, and there will be continuing resolve to it. So, what's the matter? And so there'll be continuing resolve to that. It won't be a problem. So, and everybody will have antenna coverage. So, yeah. Okay, is that it for public participation? Mitchell, well, I meant out there.
Okay,
I know
no,
you,
okay.
yeah. It appears that way.
Yeah, if I can take a moment of, I might say, personal privilege, if you will. Many people are aware that about 10 days ago, there was a pretty big storm that came through town, knocked down a number of trees, also knocked out power to part of the town. One of the trees came down across from my property. Another big branch came down on my property during a large gathering. And I'd like to say everyone is safe. But I also want to take this time to publicly thank the Orange Police Department, the Orange Fire Department, the Orange Highway Department, and AMR, all of whom responded immediately with due diligence, professionalism, made sure everyone was safe. And I thank all those people involved. And I'm sure our residents are very, very lucky to have such a professional group all around. So, thank you.
You were very lucky. You're lucky that, because that storm came up and it was a hit and run, so one of the many hit and run storms that we're all seeing repeatedly. So, is there anybody else for public participation? Anybody at the table? That's coming here when I find my right paper here. Craig, thank you. Judy, well, let me go through this, and the Winkles came up with something they mentioned to me. My announcement's very short meeting tonight, actually. But the town lost a couple good people this week. We lose good people, unfortunately, all the time, but this week, Charles Waskowitz, who was very involved with the CERT team and the town and all. Charles was a great resource with land trust and all these things. He was really a wonderful man. He fought cancer for quite a while, and unfortunately, it got him in the end. We lost Brian Hansen just a couple weeks ago, also similarly with almost a very similar cancer. Unfortunately, laid him to rest. My own aunt passed away today, my mother's sister with cancer, unfortunately. But at 92, that's not a bad run, but nonetheless. And I think everybody, if you do Facebook, you see it, because it kind of, my phone started exploding about 7 o'clock this morning. But Joe Moncheski, Grassy Hill Farm, he had been having health issues that had gotten a little more challenging and a little more challenging. And I talked with him on Monday morning. We talked every day. And he was really hurting, and he ended up in the hospital about 45 minutes after that by ambulance. And he needed emergency surgery yesterday and one day after he went into the hospital. And unfortunately, he did not survive that. surgery. So it makes it very difficult when anybody dies, but when a farmer dies that got fields full of crops, it puts it all on the family and makes it even a bigger challenge on top of any that we would all normally face. So our thoughts and prayers are with Joe Moncheski and the whole family, and hopefully they can work through this. But it was one of those happenings that we get, unfortunately. But he's a good friend and to many of us, and I think Judy and he knew each other when they had color in their hair. So I mean, it goes way back. So teenagers. So yeah. So Joey farmed all the land. When you get to Old Grassy Hill Road, and as you're going down to Ridge Road, and you see out on those cornfields and the town pond and all that over there, was all Grassy Hill Farms, farmland over there. So, unfortunate, but our thoughts are with him. He will be at Zima's in Derby, but a date has not been determined yet. So, thank you. So what I almost forgot. So Craig Winkles brought up, you need a black flag hanging out in that cornfield. If somebody has connection to a black flag, that would be something that I don't think the Wright family would object to.
No, not at all.
So we'll put that on the to-do list for tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Good idea.
Okay. Minutes to
A
consider.
little happier note we get on here?
Oh, yes, go
That
ahead.
there's somebody at this table, I think, who has a happier thing. Judy, I understand, little birdie told me you have now gone through 10 years cancer-free, gone through cancer and fighting it, yep, and 10 years, and congratulations, congratulations.
I even got a haircut. It's been a journey, it really has, and all of you guys are part of that journey, so I thank all of you, and all of you guys, you know that.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Minutes, to consider and act on the minutes of the July 12th regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections? If so, state page and paragraph, please.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Unanimous. Huh? Oh, you weren't here. Yes. New business, to consider and act on request for design engineering services for the Brookside Drive, Glenbrook Road diversion culvert, using ARPA funds, which will be probably part of it. I think that might exhaust that account, but I know that's why a large part of the audience is here tonight. And I'm very pleased with what they came up with. I don't know how you thought of that, but I think you'll remember a few months ago, we were talking about it, and I had come up with an idea. Instead of going sideways and through, I don't know the people who are there now, I think one is Clark and one was Hoffman, and then it went through the train trestle, through Winkles, under Derby Milford Road, et cetera, around Paul Kaplan's and somebody else under High Ridge. I came up with the idea of piping it from on Brookside or Glenbrook, whatever they could make work, down Glenbrook Road, under Derby Milford to the brook. And I think that's what we're gonna see tonight, which, that way, there's no public water, no public gas, no sewers, nothing in the road in that whole area. They did hit one knob of ledge where that hump in the road is as you go up towards Stephen Besputa's house, and then it goes back down. There is a knob of ledge right there that'll need to be removed, but most of it, they seem to feel, was gravel digging. So hopefully that'll be a huge help, and it will be a far less, it'll be inconvenient at times for traffic, but it will be far less intrusive to a lot of property owners. So I think it has, I think, more positives than negatives to it. So with that said, are you doing the presentation with that? That's fine. Site here.
All right. All right, my name is Gary Giroux. I'm with Cardinal Engineering, and I'm sure some of you have seen me here before. We basically did the original study of all the flooding issues at the 3 locations in town, and this one, as your first selectman said, actually came from his office, his suggestion, which we appreciate dearly. But as he mentioned, it's going to be a diversion culvert to bypass a lot of the issues that we have right now in the Glenbrook, Brookside area. Right, the existing culvert system, I'm sure everybody understands, between Brookside and Glenbrook, there's a double pipe system that goes under the 2 homes there, 883 and 827. Then there's an open channel from Glenbrook to,
This is Mrs. Laverme over here, so you get a bearing. And Ashley, right here, then it goes through, and the train trestle is here,
right here, this is the train trestle.
down here, yeah. Just so you get your bearings on it.
Under the train trestle, and then under Derby Milford, and then down and out, and gets its way down to the Housatonic River. Again, these are the various culverts in question. This is the flooding that occurred back in September of 2022, or 21. 21. I'm losing track of time right here. But I'm sure everybody remembers the flooding. And basically, the bigger storm was September 1st, 2021, which basically was a 100-year storm. You had 5.8 inches of rain in 6 hours, which is classified as a 100-year event. The capacities of the existing system, starting at Brookside, Glenbrook, that twin culvert system only has the capacity for a 20-year storm. So I'm trying to relate to the storm that did occur back in September 1st. The culvert under the railroad trestle has the capacity for a 40-year storm. And Derby Milford Road, a 20-year storm. Problem being, starting at the inlet of Brookside Road, the capacity of culvert being only 20 years storm causes the problem with the, not that the railroad culvert doesn't, but that's the start of the problem. The original study that we did, we recommended option 6A, which would have cost $3.4 million, which would have replaced all the culverts in question. Your first selectman came up with a diversion option, which we looked at, which requires a diversion starting at the inlet of Brookside, going down the center line of Brookside Road, down the center line of Glenbrook, and then dumping off into the stream opposite on the other side of Derby Milford. That cost, oh, thank you. That cost is $2.3 million versus $3.4 million. Option 6A would have been a very intrusive project for the homeowners. Resident at 833 and 827 would have required digging up their entire backyard and putting in a large box culvert. A large box culvert under the railroad, the old railroad embankment, and replacing the culvert under Derby Milford. So again, our option now is to try to, the suggested in the, what we want to get approved is to not put in all those culverts and just put a bypass pipe starting at Brookside, down Brookside, Glenbrook, and then dumping into the stream on the opposite side of Derby Milford. Right now, we have the pipe size as a twin 42-inch RCP pipe, which goes into a 60-inch and then back to 42-inch RCP. Those pipe sizes might change depending on the final hydraulics, but that's the basic layout. Again, it'll be constructed right down the center of the road. Since there are no utilities at all in the roads, it should be very easy to do. The diversion will be approximately 1,000 feet long from Brookside down to Derby Milford. We will not have to do any work within the backyards of 827 and 833. We can either leave those culverts as is or fill them in. I don't think we want to replace them. We just create more issues with the property owners. We can just fill them in with the flowable fill and just leave them there. It does involve a deep cut on Glenbrook Road, and part of that deep cut will be into rock. But we did take some preliminary borings. We will be verifying those conditions with more borings, but on a preliminary basis, from a geologic point of view, the rock is called a schist, which is a very soft rock. So hopefully, the top layer of most of that excavation can be done with a backhoe or some minor jackhammering. Very little blasting. It's not a hard rock. All right. This is the layout. As you can see, this is the diversion pipe down the two roads. This is a profile. This right here is first of all, this top dashed line is the road profile. That's the road elevation. This is from borings, preliminary borings. This is where we think rock is. So we have this piece right here we have to take out in rock. But again, it's doable. It's done all the time, even in tight conditions. And that's basically it. It's an easier way of doing it than trying to dig up everybody's backyard. The cost that we have highlighted, the 3.4 versus the 2.2, that's pure construction costs. That does not include any costs that would involve property rights and/or takings or anything of that nature. So we're staying away from that totally.
You don't believe there are any?
On the option we're proposing, there's
Option B,
nothing.
there's none.
There's nothing.
Option A would have been.
There would have been, absolutely. The only, yes,
Yes, so you're proposing to fill in the existing culverts underneath those properties? And
well, leaving the culverts there, but filling them up with what we call a flowable fill. So that it become like water can't get in them or flow through them. Put it that way.
I'm just a question on why, would the water not still flow through both
No.
channels? No.
No, because it's a solid mass. We would block off the inlet of that pipe. There's existing two pipes. Physically block it off and just fill in the rest of the pipe with what we call a flowable, which is a solid mass. Over time, one of the pipes is a metal pipe, so over time that's going to rot away. So with the fill, it won't sink. It will just stay there, and you get no subsidence of the ground around it. Okay?
Hi, I live at 827 Brookside.
Okay.
So you're gonna fill in the pipes that go under my house?
Yeah.
Yard.
The backyard.
The backyard.
And my house too.
Yes.
833.
Yep.
So there's, we get water back there, it comes down, Glenbrook, comes behind Joe's house. And it actually fills in, that's how the shed is actually moved is where it starts and so I would recommend not, because there is a drain back there, there's a grate, I should say, that would then allow that water to drain and flow through Ashley's yard and flow.
We will, again, this is what I'm going to call a preliminary concept that we think is very doable. However, there's still going to be more studies and engineering that's got to go on. So we will investigate all that stuff and make sure that any of those issues will be accommodated in this proposal.
And it's
I mean,
important,
go ahead.
it's important that you said that, because we didn't know that. and that brings something to light that the purpose of this tonight is to consider awarding them a contract to design this. So all the inputs, like what you just said, are very important to it, so it might be worthwhile then to leave that way to pick up that water, and that would go west, I guess, towards where it goes currently.
Currently.
There would be a lot less water, but it would still, that way would have a venue to go that way.
Right, we do not want to inhibit local water from getting into that drainage system. The main thought of the diversion is to get all the water prior to hitting Brookside
The flooding.
out of the way, get it out of the way. We will talk to all you, everybody in the neighborhood, just to get your feeling and get your input on exactly what you think, what your flooding issues are.
Excuse me, we have a rainstorm, I'm scared to death.
Well, and we're getting a lot more of those, too.
Huh?
We're getting a lot more.
Correct, we definitely are. And my garage starts flooding, then my crawl space, my backyard, I could have 3-4 feet in certain areas.
Okay.
So I would kind of like to see how it's all gonna work, because I can't put a pool in, I can't sell my house.
No, we understand, and we will work with all their neighbors to make sure that everybody understands where we're going with this, and any input that you bring to the table, we will consider.
So can we all sit down and have a conversation, or?
We can set it up some way. When we start the project, we can start off with sit around the table here and just talk about it and get input.
That would be great.
There's gonna be, that's why there's the diversion pipe. However, Ashley, your backyard, just dig a hole and you'll have a swimming pool there, because there was a pond there. So you can't put an in-ground pool in there, even if it was in your wildest dreams, because of the high water table there. Not because of the pipes, it's there because of where that location is geographically and how the groundwaters flow. There's a high water
Again,
table under there.
thank you, but I wasn't aware of that.
I know, that's why I'm telling you.
So, Gary, just one more question. There are some storm drains, catch basins running down Glenbrook.
Yep.
There's one that's right next to Ashley's house where that white fence is. That dumps into that stream.
Yep.
Then goes through the railroad culvert. Now, that'll continue to be the case.
That will continue to operate that way. We may, again, when we get into more detailed hydraulics, we may want to divert that to the new pipe. It just depends on how everything works out. The bottom line is, the new diversion pipe will handle a 100-year storm. Okay, so anything coming down and hitting the inlet at Brookside during a 100-year storm will flow right down, bypass everything. With regards to what remains coming down Glenbrook, and you have that other pipe coming down along the railroad embankment, the old railroad embankment, it's like a 42 or 48-inch pipe that dumps into the brook upstream of that railroad embankment. That railroad embankment culvert should handle the 100-year storm with some minor flooding in the yards. But basements, driveways will not get flooded. It'll be just to the overbank areas of that stream channel that heads into the culvert.
That's also for Brookside Drive?
Brookside Drive, that'll handle the 100-year storm. No water will overflow Brookside Drive.
No water will.
No. No.
The brook comes to a stop then at Brookside Drive. So where does that water go? This,
Well,
That's going in the new pipe.
it's going to go in the new pipe down the middle of Brookside Drive, Glenbrook.
Show it up again and just show, I think it would help to
There's
show
a
the
catch
map.
basin, you're gonna grab that catch basin too, on,
Okay. We'll back up.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I thought it was easy.
How do I get this to back up?
So you want to take all that water before it gets underneath the property.
Oh. Okay.
Use those arrows.
Okay. I was using, yeah.
That might help, help explain what you're saying to people
It's
showing
gonna-
the map.
Okay.
It's gonna jump into that culvert first.
All the water coming down the brook here at Brookside Drive,
Mrs. Laverme.
This is it, hold it. I'm sorry.
all the water coming down the brook to Brookside Drive will go into this new culvert. Nothing will overflow the road and flow overland
She's 833.
as it used to before. Okay? That's gonna stop. This new culvert system's gonna stop that from happening. So,
Cross your heart and hope you die.
for a 100-year storm, okay? I'm involved in a project up in Norfolk, Connecticut, that just had a 250-year storm. So, I mean, you're,
The storms now are different.
you gotta
than they
stop,
used to be.
I mean, you gotta design to stop somewhere.
Yeah, they got come up with it.
It'd be like Okemo
Yeah.
up there.
Same type of thing up there, yeah. I mean, Norfolk was hit real bad a couple weeks ago.
So this will decrease the water that goes through Mrs. Laverme and Ashley's yards and continues over through Winkles and down. This will decrease that water,
All the way up to a 100-year storm,
yeah.
okay? Which is what occurred back in 2000, on September 1. It was a 100-year storm.
So is the
So
capacity?
that will not happen.
So the capacity of the new pipes is 5 times the size?
It's not a direct
not linear?
multiplier, but yes, it'll handle it. It's a big pipe. It's gonna be a big pipe.
I'm sorry, but can you guarantee that?
No.
Okay. I didn't think that.
I mean, nature is nature, and the way, when we
Look,
say 100-year
again,
storm now,
That's why I have to ask.
we are using the latest figures from the National Weather Service as far as rainfall. They have changed quite a bit over the years, and we do expect with climate change and global warming, these numbers are gonna change again. Then they're all creeping up, so.
Some people may be asking, how could two 42-inch pipes or one 60-inch pipe do the same thing as a 5-foot by 10-foot box culvert? The difference is the existing stream, particularly from Brookside to the downstream side of the old railroad, it's almost flat. But by discharging farther downstream, you pick up a lot of elevation difference. So the new diversion pipe will have slope to it, which
Yeah, velocity.
slope does help water flow.
Perfect.
Because, yeah, the first
Sure.
thing I saw is how those pipe sizes don't seem big enough, but when you,
It's gonna
No,
keep
no,
moving
it's
that
big,
water.
it's big enough.
Good.
I mean, this,
Can I just ask, do I have any guarantee that I'm not gonna go through a 4-inch, or 4-foot flood again?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry I can't, but
Hope to God.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and thank you for the redesign, which I think everybody's more excited about. I would just, echoing what some of the residents have said, I would like to see you keep the existing flow open and not close it up for two reasons. One is because there's obviously, water's coming from everywhere. We all know that, even from the sky. So it gives another way for it to divert, not just through those pipes. And second of all, if we do have a torrential biblical flood, it gives another spot for overflow.
we
So I
will,
would
we will
think that
take a
would be-
look at that in our design. It all has to do with the inlet at Brookside and how we handle the different elevations of the pipes, the
Right.
existing pipe and the new pipe, and any kind of control we put on the existing pipe. We want to make sure that this diversion does what we say it's going to do, is divert the 100-year storm.
Right.
If we leave the existing pipes open, we're concerned that, water flows where it wants to flow.
Right.
It finds the path of least resistance, so it's still gonna go in, it still could cause us problems. But we're gonna take a look at all that.
Okay.
When I say fill it with flow, it may be filling one of the pipes with flow overflow. You have an RCP pipe and a metal pipe. My preference is to fill the metal pipe, because that has the reinforced concrete pipe has a longer, more longevity than a metal pipe. So if we leave one pipe open, it'd be the concrete pipe.
You do that when you go through my yard?
Pardon?
To fill the pipes, you have to go through my yard?
No.
Stuff from the end, up here or over here.
They can pump it up into it
You could block,
from,
you could block it, and then it still allows it to flow from the backyard.
again, we're gonna take a look at that. Again, we have to make sure that any any inlet or any means of water getting into that pipe system from your yards. We want to make sure we don't mess that up. We got to keep your yards drainable or draining, free draining at all times. But diverting it at the Brookside Inlet will will solve 99% of the problems. I can't give you that 1%.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's good. All right.
Yes. All right, so that's item one, is to consider and act on the design engineering services for the Brookside Drive, Glenbrook Road culvert. I don't know, let me look and see, I don't recall. That's what I was just,
138.6.
the total one estimated design cost is 138,000 change. One thing to remember too with these numbers, they're interesting because when we went out to bid, as you should recall, for Coachman's Old Country, it was estimated at $1 million change plus, and it ended up, we had bids from $3 million to $900,000. So you wait and you see. The bigger problem is getting the cement products to do the job. But there's approximately $1 million in ARPA funds that we've been holding for this work. So we do have the money to cover it.
Which leads to the obvious question, where's the rest of the money going to come from?
Oh, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
That you're crossing
Probably,
bridges.
probably from the well, you got to remember, you have a capital account that has $2 million, roughly $2.2 million in it. There are some other funds, and the government just instituted another grant where they're putting out money for flooding projects and stuff too. So there's multiple places, that they're,
But you feel, I guess the question is, you feel confident that if we approve, so no sense in approving 138,600 if we're not going to go forward with the 2.4 that follows it. So, 2.2, 2.3. So you feel confident, though, that we will have the money to be able to do this?
well, you're
these
either going to
projects?
do it that way or you're going to bond it, but you're
Okay.
going to do it.
Okay,
You have to do it.
all right.
Simple as that.
I wanna make sure.
We haven't bond, go ahead.
Can I add something?
Sure.
My experience with funding sources, grants from the state and whatnot, if you have a set of contract documents ready, shovel ready, you had more favorable response from them.
Yeah, we're waiting on a response also for Carla's neighborhood for the lot zip program, but it looks like we got a favorable response coming on that. It hasn't come yet, but it looks that direction to me, is what I'm being told on that one, which is a whole nother, that's flooding project number 3. So anyhow, so either way, you need to approve an engineering engineering proposal, is the word I want, to move this forward, because you can't do anything until you move this forward, so I recommend that you, and since we have used Cardinal for this, these projects right along, I mean, I'm not changing horses in midstream here.
No reason to.
No.
So Jim, with that, I'll make a motion. Is it appropriate this time?
Yep.
Make a motion to award the design engineering services work for the diversion culvert for Brookside Drive and Glenbrook Road to Cardinal Engineering in an amount of up to $138,600.
Second.
That's fine, I believe that'll work. If it goes beyond that, which I don't think it will,
They say in their proposal, an amount up to, that's why I
don't worry, I
proposed
said,
it.
I don't
Yeah.
think it will. I think that's fair. All in favor of that? Oh, question?
And that will include talking to the residents that we just discussed? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's all part of the, yeah,
Okay.
We're gonna be public hearings and everything on this anyway.
Okay. All right.
okay. So now I'll ask again, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Who voted against it? I want to tell them. Nobody, just kidding. All right, item number 2 is to request, consider and act on request for construction engineering services for work for culvert replacement projects, Old Country Coachman Lane, also using ARPA funds. Is this for the, once the project starts, engineering, that's what I thought. That project, even though we awarded it and the contractor is willing to hold their price at 900 and some odd thousand, the holdup with that is the preformed concrete products that we need, the box culverts under Coachman's and under Old Country and head walls and stuff. They can't produce the product fast enough. They have such demand, like everything else. They're not producing cement precast product fast enough. I believe the contractor has tried to reach out to 3 different cement precast companies, and they're not,
Yeah, everyone in New England, New York, New Jersey area.
and so,
No one can do it.
so we're trying with that, so that pushes that to summer of '24, because you can't do it in the spring if water is flowing, unless you put a diversion in there, which you're better off just to wait for Stubby Brook to go dry and then do that project. Which leads me to an interesting thought for the third one, for Carla's neighborhood at Pine Tree, Peck, and that Peck, by Peck School. We're waiting on the lot zip approval for that one, but we're gonna see if it's possible for the town even to order the concrete product for that one before we go out to bid. The town may actually go out and buy the concrete product for it, so the contractor it will already be ordered. So that we're doing, but we have to wait for the lot zip approval on that one. So, been spending a lot of time on waterways. We've learned it intricately. But anyhow, that's just so all of you know. But this one is for the Old Country Coachman's one, is gonna be done, I think, summer of '24, unless we have a dry spring. But I'm betting on summer of '24. Mitchell?
Yeah, just to clarify, we've already approved engineering services for this project.
That
have we
was for
not?
the design.
For the design, and so
This is for oversight during construction.
Gotcha, thank you.
And let's see, is that a separate one? That's the thin piece of paper one, not the first one. And it's, yeah. Yeah, it's 27.5 on that one on $1 million job. So percentage-wise, it's minuscule, and it, you have a professional service that's overseeing it and stamping it, so if there is a problem, it doesn't come back just to the town and the town engineer. You have an engineering firm separate from the town that is overseeing the project. So as far as liability and exposure, it's a wise choice to do that. And again, I've been happy with Cardinal's services. I think Bob has been too. And since we're the two who have the interaction the most with it, that's all I can tell you.
I think the bond committee also feels the same way, since we use them over at the Third Milford Road Bridge area.
That's right.
So we've had a
Yep.
lot of experience, good experience with Cardinal, so I think that's certainly worthy.
All right, so is there a motion to be made on that, item number 2?
Okay, make a motion to request for the construction engineering services work for culvert replacement projects, Old Country Road and Coachman's Lane culverts using ARPA funds. And up to, we want 27,500?
Yeah,
Okay, $27,500. Up to.
motion
Through
for
Cardinal?
Cardinal
Do
Engineering.
you want to put
yeah.
Cardinal down? We didn't
All
put it
right,
down.
motion's made and seconded. Any other
Okay.
discussions, questions? Anybody in the audience have questions on any of this? No? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, unanimous. The last one is, the state has a steep grant application out. We're trying to put together, and I did briefly speak to John about this, I spoke to the company. They haven't gotten back to me with a price, but they will before the 18th of this month. for a 60 by 120, I believe it's 60 by 120 post, and what do they call that, Bob? Post and tension concrete? Post tension slab, same as what we did for the tennis courts at High Plains for pickleball courts. Potentially as part of his project, you know, that these two are overseeing at the park, but we need to apply for the money now so that it may be there next year as they formulate this. So, because they will end up there somewhere,
Right, right.
but we need to apply for the money now so they have the money in order to
Okay.
do the project. So that's strictly a discussion at this moment. I believe we will get the application in time if they provide me with all the information on it. And that will provide money for the Wolf Park Committee
Okay.
for that improvement. There's a great demand for it. I don't know if any of these people in the audience here are playing pickleball, but there's a tremendous amount of demand for it. And so
So you don't need
that's.
a motion or anything tonight?
No,
Just-
no, it's, we're gonna apply for it. We don't need a motion to apply for it. It's a state grant, Small Town Economic Assistance Program grant. They do them twice or sometimes 3 times in a year. And, so we're hoping that we can help the committee along. Yes, Mitchell?
Jim, couple quick questions. So approximately how many, well, 2 questions, really. How many?
4.
Four courts, and what do we think it's gonna cost? And you said you're waiting for,
I'm gonna
for
guess.
proposals. Who's the proposals
I'm
coming
gonna
from?
guesstimate with prep and land clearing and all, somewhere between 250 and 300,000.
Okay.
Because you have to clear another space over there somewhere, which B and L will give you as some of this. There's gonna be some site work and prep work, I'll call it, to do it. You're probably gonna fit it in somewhere, so it will need a small parking area near it. And also that, but that will be B and L's part. All I'm trying to do is get them the money so that they can plot it somewhere.
And I'm sorry, you're waiting for who to give you quotes?
This, I, trying to get the quote from the same company, they're one of the best around that did the tennis courts
Okay.
here. They're from Seymour, and, they really did, out of all the companies that bid, they were the most, thorough, I'll call it, and they did a really outstanding job with that. So, that's what I'm waiting for. So I have, just so I have a ballpark, where we still would have to bid it since it's steep money after the fact. But for now, we're just getting an idea so that we can ask for the money. So you can't get your hand bid if you don't put it out there. So that's what I'm doing with that. Let's see, Pension Board, Selectman Goldblatt.
Yeah, we meet next Thursday. Next Thursday is basically, we meet quarterly, for those that don't know, the pension board. Next Thursday is one of the more important meetings of the year because it's the meeting we meet with our actuaries. So we'll have some information for you, especially concerning next year's budget, after we meet with the actuaries. And that's next Thursday, right here.
Okay. Fred Wolf Park Ad hoc, A or B?
We are scheduled to have our next meeting Thursday, August 24th at 5:30. We are working with BL companies regarding the traffic and safety study, and I know that they plan on working with the town attorney and the first selectman regarding the contract to start that. So we look forward to working with them and making this Fred Wolf Park something that we're all proud of. That's where we're at.
Very good. PJ, do you concur? I concur. Okay, you included I just see it, you included all the prize winners from the carnival in it? Okay, so somewhere in there's a list of all the prize winners from the carnival, because there's always people asking, who won, so I didn't realize it was in the packet. Okay, with that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned at 7:50.